Now, the next story is something that I have been banging on about for a very long time indeed. Because my experience when I lived in London was that when I walked down Earl's Court Road, that's where I used to live. I don't live there anymore, so I can tell you now. I used to just say West London, you know, be all vague in case the leftists turn up. But I used to live in Earl's Court. When I first moved to Earl's Court about 4 years ago, back when the rent was £1,000 a month cheaper. Oh yeah, like seriously, it went up that much in 4 years. It was a nice neighbourhood. It's in Kensington, the Royal Borough of Kensington, Chelsea, which is a very la-di-da posho borough. But it's got some gnarly stuff down Kensington, right? West Kensington is, you know, quite fresh. That's where Grenfell and all that is. And it's a bit sort of stabby and weird down those parts. But Earl's Court, lots of fast food restaurants, but otherwise sort of quite humble, but not edgy particularly. Oh, no, not until it became edgy. And I'll tell you for why. Earl's Court and that bit of Kensington seems to me to have just loads and loads and loads of hotels. If you come to London, most of the time you end up booking a hotel in Earl's Court. And clearly, I've not sort of gone and done the audit and been around my clipboard seeing where they are. But clearly some of these hotels have been appropriated to house our good friends from Lord knows where. Because you know who they are. You walk down the street and all of a sudden, there they are with their slightly roomy eyes and their mad hair, you know, just lurking around, following you around Sainsbury's. And so a number of things happened. I started to get followed. The first time it happened, it was in broad daylight, about 2 in the afternoon, and a man chuntering away in one of those Afghan hats, you know, the ones that look like a sort of miniature Hessian sack folded up. He started walking right alongside me. I was on the phone to my mum and he's like, really close, followed me all the way to my front door. I had to go hide in my neighbour's house. That was strike one. Then there was just every day then, going up the street, leering men, always standing outside the bookies with their little cigarettes, watching you go by, following you, coming up to you in the supermarket, even when you look like Rick Parfitt, because you've just woken up and your hair looks like a sort of social experiment and your eyes are sort of sunken and hollow. No, even then they'd be coming up to me like, you know, hi, lady, beautiful lady. You'd be like, gross, get away from me right now, if you would. And then it just seemed to spiral out of control. Earl's Court seemed to then become the hub of Deliveroo. So all the guys, the Uber deliverers and all the rest of it seemed to all sort of park up, largely down the end of my street. And when my mum was there over the last, when I was moving out, helping me do my packing, she looked outside my window and she's like, there's a dude on a prayer mat outside your house. I'm like, oh yeah. I remember one day coming home and I found some weird rucksack full of pro-pally stuff hanging on my front door. I'm like, what's going on here? And it just started to get really, really horrid. And my gorgeous producer, Samara, she also lives not in Earl's Court, by the way. We're not going to send people around to Samara's house because she doesn't actually live there. But she lives in London. And we used to exchange notes on the sort of things that happened. She basically almost got held hostage by some mad migrant on a bus the other day. Who's a known rapist in the area. I mean, she's got chased down the road by a man with a knife. It's not funny. This is why I've had to get out of London, because it is absolutely crazy town out there now. And it has fallen very blimmin' quickly. And I'll tell you what, when I first turned around and said this, however long ago it was, and it went all viral and stuff online. And, oh, they're racist. Oh, it's just terrible. You can't say that it's largely foreign-looking men who are harassing you. I'm like, but it is. I have eyes and ears. I can tell they're not exactly born in, you know, Cheltenham. It is foreign people. They're even wearing the sort of, you know, different clothes and stuff and hanging around in groups without any British-looking friends. I know what I can see. I can, you know, I've got a brain. Oh, no, it's a dreadful thing to say. You can't say that. That is racist. That is awful. And then there are also people going, this has never happened to me. You know, there are some commentators. There's one particular KC, some woke woman KC, who's always sticking in her, or leftist that she is. This has never happened to me. I'm like, that's because you're like the same age as Methuselah, all right? If you are, you know, built like white goods or 1,000 years old, they're probably not going to follow you down the street. But believe you me, and I'm getting on a bit myself these days, I'm not exactly fresh out of the blimmin' traps, which is why I worry so much for our teenage girls. But if you've got blonde hair, it is like a magnet for these people. They see that hair and they're after you. And so, believe me, my own lived experience, to coin a favourite term of the left, is enough for me. to know about the statistics behind the next story, which is sex crimes by foreign nationals have surged. Would you believe? Let's speak now to Lucy White, public policy specialist. Welcome aboard, Lucy. Great to have you back on the show. Now let's talk about some of these statistics. The number of sexual offence convictions of foreign nationals has increased by 62% in 4 years. Interesting, because it's 4 years that my own lived experience has sort of scared up as the scale for how bad things has got. What do you think is going on behind all of this? Why has it gone up so much?
Hi, Alex. Yeah, it's gone up because we have imported, unfortunately, many illegal migrants. We know that on average, well, since Keir Starmer came into power, there's now been 52,000 illegal migrants that have come across. And the think tank, the Centre for Migration Control, research led by Robert Bates, they've shown us that not only that there's been a 62% increase in foreign national convictions, but also in London itself, as you were just explaining with Earl's Court. So across London, foreign nationals account for 47% of all sex offences, yet they are 25% of the population. So there's an overrepresentation of sex offences by foreign nationals. No surprise there, though, is there?
So my assumption here is, like you're saying, that once upon a time, if you're looking, of course, when you say foreign nationals, that's anybody not from Britain. And if you're getting a load of people like we did about 10, 15 years ago, who are coming from Poland, Christian countries, basically, where they've got a similar ethos towards family, morality and women as we do, then they're probably less likely to become sexual predators and pests. But if you're getting a load of men all of a sudden from cultures where, first of all, women who don't believe in their religion are treated as, lower than dogs, and secondly, they haven't even seen a bare ankle ever since birth, then probably if you bring them over to the land of Bonnie Blue, you're going to end up with a pretty nasty, toxic combination.
Yeah, precisely. So we've also seen this story today of a Syrian refugee named Hassan who assaulted a 19-year-old girl. This was back in 2022, but it's only...
It sounds like you may need support.
It's only just sort of...
Okay, let me know if I can help.
It's only just come... That was my Siri.
I think that was your Siri's getting in on the edge. I thought that was me going a bit mad there, and I was like, what? Are the medications beginning to give me voices in my head? But I like the fact that Siri is all in it. They want to help us stop the boats. Thank you, Siri. Do carry on, my darling.
So with this Syrian refugee named Hassan, so there's three things to point out here. So number one is that we know that Syrians are 6 times more likely to commit sexual assaults than British nationals, and that's researched by the Centre for Migration Control. We also know that in Syria, polygamy is legal under Sharia law, where men can have up to 4 wives. So again, the crazy story of this Hassan who assaulted a 19-year-old is that when he went to court, his wife actually joined him and supported him. What wife supports their husband when they have sexually assaulted a girl? And the third thing is the regime, the Assad regime in Syria fell in December 2024. So the refugees should start going back to Syria. The fact that they are still here is not great. And what we need to start doing, Alex, is naming and shaming these lawyers who are defending sexual assaulted men who commit sexual assaults. So the lawyer in this case was called Graham Gilbert, and his excuse was, well, Hassan, who is from Syria, he suffers from post-traumatic stress disorder, and therefore if we send him to jail, his conditions will get worse. All the rubbish that we've heard before. However, we're very lucky in this case that there was a judge named Robert Paulson who said, nope, not having any of this. This Syrian man is going to jail. You, Judge Robert Paulson, we need more like you.
Exactly. Good. I'm glad we're actually giving someone some applause, because I think that's very important. Let's stick with the sex crimes for a moment here, because there is a common denominator, right? And this is what a lot of people, they don't want to say it. They don't want to talk about it. Soon enough, they're going to outlaw the saying of this. But the thing that seems to unite a lot of these men who come over with their misogynistic viewpoints, who basically have not had any sexual liberty in their home country, who look and fetishize white white Western women as easy access. Come along, have a bit of fun with them. That doesn't matter. Plus, you're sort of, hard done by wife and kids back at home will just have to shut up and put up, or they'll probably get, a clip round the ear at the very least. These countries have something in common, don't they? And what is in common with these countries is they are culturally Muslim, and many of them very fundamentally Muslim. Now, I'm someone who's lived around the world a lot. I used to live in the Muslim part of Accra in Ghana, and a very lovely neighbourhood it was too. You do get very different forms of Islam practiced, and culturally Muslim nations that are different from others. But when you look at a lot of these countries in the Middle East and North Africa, by gum, their attitudes underpinned by their ideology are massively out of step with our own. And yet we're still not talking about this.
Yeah, of course, it's absolutely disgraceful. I'm also a spokesperson for the Women's Safety Initiative, WSI, which I know yourself, Alex, you're also a supporter of the organisation. It's really important that we have organisations such as WSI, because otherwise you have girls in our country who are being sexually targeted on a daily basis by men who come from cultures that are not compatible with ours, and nobody is speaking up for us. We saw with the Pakistani grooming gangs that the police tried to cover it. We've seen that the authorities are not listening to us in the name of, diversity and multiculturalism. So we have to keep calling it out. But we really need our police, our judges to actually stand up for us when it comes to it.
Yeah, and I'd actually like to see members of the Muslim community lend their voice to this as well, because it's all very well suddenly protecting them and going, oh, well, don't offend them, don't upset them. Guess what? Islam isn't much fun for a lot of women. A lot of women find they don't have the same rights as men under that religion. A lot of women in this country might actually be quite happy if we suddenly started standing up for them as well in their own communities. Thank you ever so much for joining me, Lucy. Before I let you go, what's your experience been like as a woman in all of this? What sort of things have happened to you? Because Samara and I, when we compare notes, it's like a blimmin' living dystopia.
Yeah, precisely. Well, I used to live in Islington, which is the sort of, capital of the Liberals. But I don't live there anymore. And I just found that, particularly around the Arsenal Stadium, there were lots of migrant employees in the Arsenal Stadium and lots of workers, construction workers in that area, that when I would leave my house, either to go to the tube station or on my bike, I was just stared at, and I felt so uncomfortable. I actually don't go back to that area anymore. And that's part of the reason why I moved out, right sort of by the Arsenal Stadium. It's horrid. And I also feel, working around Westminster, you are in the heart of the political capital of London, and yet there are horrible people all by the River Thames. You have those sort of, what are they called? Those bikes, the men on those bikes with the carriages behind.
Oh, yeah, those tuk-tuk things, whatever they are, the blaring music where they charge you £5,000 to go 5 metres.
Exactly. And I just feel very uncomfortable when I'm in the UK. I also find it dictates what I feel comfortable to wear around the city. I feel if I'm in certain clothes, I feel that, you shouldn't be made to feel this way, but you feel that they will come after you, they will follow you. I've had cases in an Uber driver before where my taxi driver was speaking in a foreign language on a video call to a woman while he was driving me around, and I felt so unsafe. And that's why, for example, with the Women's Safety Initiative, we are calling for CCTV in all taxis, because young girls such as us, you and I, Alex, we shouldn't be made to feel unsafe in our own city. And I've been speaking with a lot of my friends, and a lot of us are planning to leave London because our quality of life has been jeopardized. We are not comfortable. I'm fed up of being stared at, quite frankly. I'm fed up of not hearing English in my own country, and I'm fed up of not seeing other English people around.
Girl, you can come join my little right-wing enclave of common sense that I'm setting up in the West Country. You'd be much, much welcome there. I totally agree with you. I sent my other half a message the other day saying I've put on a really nice summer frock to go for a walk, and I said I haven't done that in ages, because like you, when I was in London, I would know if I put on a little strappy dress. It was boiling hot down the Shire the other day. If I put on a little strappy dress and walked up Earl's Court Road, it'd be like running the gauntlet. You're asking for trouble. And you suddenly realise you are adapting your behaviour, deciding what time you leave the house, what you wear, whether you've got makeup on, whether you've even got high heels on, because that clip-clop of a high heel is like some sort of siren call to these sexual predators. And you suddenly realise, you know, that I walked around in my little summer dress and someone shouted over the road at me, and it was actually a woman going, "Your dress is really nice, love." It was the most refreshing thing ever, and I thought, this is what it's supposed to be like. So Lucy, my darling, when you're ready to get up and get out properly, you speak to me. I'll hook you up with a good gaff. The wonderful Lucy White there, public policy specialist.